So once again, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great week. We're going to go ahead and I guess get started here. Today we are going to talk about hardware basics. So that's what I've got all over the desk. We'll kind of go through some of that. We're going to do a little bit different. I think today we're hoping is going to be a lot more interactive with the hardware. But to start, hardware. What do I need to know? What do you guys need to know about hardware? If you could sum it up into one word, I want someone to actually answer this. Sum it up into one word, one phrase. What do you need to know about hardware?
Either throw it in this chat or unmute yourself.
Yeah.
What do you need to know?
Come on, someone's got to be willing to just at least give an answer. My email. I mean, I guess that kind of works.
I think that just knowing the basics for what's recommended for each application.
Heather, you are so close you don't even realize it.
Okay.
The one thing you need to know, application. What is the application of the product in the space? So when we talk about application, that's meaning how is it going to be used? Is it going to be a wall panel, a ceiling panel, a cloud, a baffle? What is the application, right? So that's the biggest, that's the question, right? That's when you're having these conversations with your clients and they say, what's the hardware? We need to know what the application is because yes, we have standard hardware, but it changes depending on the application. So once you get to the application, here's some examples of the questions that you're going to want to ask and what kind of things we want to understand. For a ceiling, is it direct mounted? Is it suspended? Is there T-grid? Is it a hard lid? Do they have an open plenum? What are the deck materials? Is there obstacles in the way? So all those things come into play with how we're going to recommend to install and what hardware we're going to recommend, right? For a wall, it's a little less information that we need. We need to know what the substrate is, if they want or need a standoff or one's required, if there's reveals between the panels, and if this is a monolithic application. And when I say monolithic, that means wall to wall and floor to ceiling, right? Because if you want to go floor to ceiling, there's certain hardware you can't use because it requires a liftoff. So, and we'll go through some of the specific hardware types here in a minute. But we really need to start the conversation with the application because that's what's most important about what hardware we're going to recommend. Now we do have standards, and if we don't know the application and they've not specified, we're going to assume, we're going to put that in the quote, say, hey, we're assuming this hardware, right? But applications and hardware is a great segue and a great way to get your clients onto a consultation. Hey, there's some obstacles in the ceiling. I just need to know what kind of hardware they're going to use. What are they going to do? Okay. Hey, I think it would be a great idea to get the manufacturer on the call so we can discuss your specific application. And I'm going to change that before we send this out, that instead of saying the application, your specific application, because then it makes it personal to them. Like, hey, you're doing something specific here. We can solve for that. Let's get them on the call. Then we can have a call, and it's not just about application. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about hardware, but we'll talk about all the other things that go along with the call and continue to build that trust and their comfortability with specifying something new, right? And so that's where the conversation around hardware needs to go around the application, what they're trying to accomplish, and then leverage the experts, leverage us in these consult calls to not only explain the hardware and give them those details, but also to build more trust and more credibility there and make it easier for them to specify a new product. We will get to these. I see some questions popping up. They're great, Amy. We will get to those in just a moment. I do want to go through now real quickly some of our standard stuff that we do for panels, baffles, and clouds, right? So our suspended hardware types, it is all going to be for baffles, is all going to be some variation of these. They're called grip lockers. And that's what you see on the right-hand side there. That one's what we call a Mel grip locker. And I just pulled it out of this baffle, right? So 90% of our baffles are going to have right here, which is a 1/4-20 nutsert, which allows this hardware just to screw right in, right? Super simple. The other 10% of our baffles have a stud that comes out of it. And so we use a female grip locker, same exact application. It just screws on to there instead. 1/16 aircraft cable is what goes with this, right? And it's really easy. Most contractors either already have it or have a source where they can get it really quickly, really inexpensive. So we don't include this unless it's specifically asked for. It is not, the aircraft cable is not included. Because we don't know a lot of times we don't know the height, we don't know how much they need. So it's such an easy thing for them to source, and they can source it cheaper than getting it through us. That's our standard. But it works really simple. And I'm going to come up here again close to the camera. All it does is you just push it through. It comes out the bottom end. And if you need to adjust it, you can push the little plunger and move it up and down to make your micro adjustments so that you can make everything flat and level. So all of our suspension, that's what we use, is some sort of grip locker. Now, the center picture there is a barrel mount with a ceiling mount, right? So that's the other end of what I've got here. The aircraft cable has a little barrel mount, and then there's a two-piece little, I don't know, ceiling mount here. This part here has a hole in it, so you screw that directly to the deck. You thread your barrel end in, and then you just screw it in. And that's a really simple, when you have a hard deck ceiling, really simple mount. Now, open plenums, these are hard to get into concrete. They're hard to get into different types of decks. They're usually best work on chipboard or plywood. What we see when someone's got an open plenum, they loop their aircraft cable around the trusses that are up there, or they'll drop unistrut, or sometimes they'll use the ceiling shotguns that suspend T-grid, and they'll just shoot it right into the deck. And there's a little loop on there. That's what they can hook it through. So there's a lot of different ways that they can do that. It's really dependent upon the contractor, the application, what they need, whether or not these ceiling mounts are recommended or going to be actually a good way to do it. So, but this is something that we can supply if the application calls for it. The last thing you see on there is when there's grid and you got to hang it from a grid, it's a twist clip. So this just twists right onto the ceiling grid, and it's a 1/4-20 bolt on the other end. So you can have a grip locker, or you can screw these directly into the baffle. And now you just twist this onto the grid, and it can be directly suspended from the grid. So that's the most common information about baffles. Some more, you can kind of see the other one that is up here. This isn't as common, but when you're doing a direct mount to unistrut, this happens, and we recommend using this type of application when they have baffles that are really close together, right? Because if you have a bunch that are really close together, that's a ton of different ceiling mounts you got to do in cables. But if you just drop unistrut, Now, instead of, you got 12 baffles going across here, instead of having 24 cables and 24 ceiling attach points that you've got to make, you can do that in 6, right? 3 per unistrut. And then these, it's just a 1/4-20 machine screw and a washer, and they just screw it right into the baffle. And it's a direct mount. And then that also keeps it from sliding, shifting, and it makes sure that you're very level across your bottom. You don't have to go through a bunch of different suspension points and do your micro adjustments to make sure you have a level finished product. Wall panels. Most common, especially with wood, is Z-clip. So you can go clip to clip or clip to bar. Really, the application and the size of the panels, what they're doing with it, whether there's reveals, things like that, determine whether or not we recommend clip to clip or clip to bar, right? A lot of times the contractor will have a preference. It doesn't really matter. It all works the same. Z-clips, they're also called French cleats. They're very simple products. So this is a bar, and the clip is somewhere around here, and they just like you see, it just clips nicely together. You hang it on there. This is great if the panels need to be removable. So again, application. Do we need to be able to remove these panels? No. Okay, we don't have to use Z-clips. Maybe there's a different, better, or easier option. Yes. Okay, probably Z-clips is the best way to go. Now, planks.
There was a question about panel wall.
We'll get to that. I want to go
Wanna
through. Yeah,
go through that first.
we're gonna have a long Q&A system. Yeah, Q&A system. So planks. We use spear clips as our standard attachment. It's a very simple and easy method. Okay. The issue with it is that it is kind of expensive. So really, again, you want to talk about the application, but this is a way to help save money. Depending on what their structure is, you can save money by using construction adhesive and pin nails. Okay. You've got to have a flat surface, so it's got to be either a plywood deck, a plywood wall that is very flat level, or a level 4 or 5 finished drywall surface to do this. Because otherwise, if you have waves and variations in your wall or ceiling, the panels are then going to do that, and you're going to see that, right? If you use the construction adhesive and pin nails. We have plenty of installations where this has been used, and the pin nails do go through the face, but you never see them. And they're super easy to hide, super easy to avoid. All they're really there for is to set the panel while the construction adhesive dries, right? So you don't need a ton of pin nails. You need just a couple to tack it in place, and they go away. You don't see the heads at all. So it's something that sometimes people get scared about, putting a nail through the face. These aren't, big, 16 penny nails that we all think of when we think of nails. Heads are very small. And again, it's just holding it in place. Now, with the spear clips, for those of you who have not seen them, they are very simple. So this is what they are. They're just plastic, right? And they go onto furring strips or directly to the wall, and you screw them on. But it works similar to a tongue and groove, and they're very easy. So all you do is push it against the side, and it pops right in. So what you'll do is you'll put your first one, the end clip, up, and then you'll attach all the clips that you need on the other panel, slide it up there, put it in, and then now you drill your hole in here and you do your next plank. And so it goes together. I think a lot of you have heard me say this. It goes together similar to tongue and groove. It's not, but it's a progressive system, super easy. And it does create an 1/8 inch reveal. You always have that. That can't be changed with the spear clips. But it's nice if you have an uneven wall, so you can throw some furring strips up there to make it level and then use these across. Or if you can actually do this to T-grid too. If they don't need plenum access, but they have T-grid. You use your T-grid and you throw a furry strip up there, and now you have these to go across. So it's very versatile and very simple. The downside is it is one of our more expensive hardwares. So are you seeing questions specific to this?
Not unless, yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right, ceiling panels. This is specifically about T-grid, right? There's 3 types of panels that we make that can go with T-grid for the wood acoustics. One of them is a lay-in tile. Lay-in tile, there's no hardware. It's like any other ACT grid, any other panel that you see. You just pop it up there and lay it in, right? It literally rests on the lip. Then you have the tegular, which is on the right-hand side there. That's a clip that goes on the back. It's very simple. I've got it somewhere around here.
I know where, I didn't see one when I was looking.
It's as simple as it looks, right? And all it does is it gives you this little lip to rest on the grid. And that gives you that tegular look where the panel itself drops just below the grid, but you're still going to see the grid.
It sits proud of
Yeah.
the ceiling.
Yeah. And then the other one is the hook and saddle, which is what Brock was showing you earlier. So again, you have your grid there, and this just goes up and hooks on there, right? All of the hardware points for this are going to be pre-drilled into the back of the panel, so they'll know exactly where to put these clips, right? And then they just have 2-foot centers for their mains, and it just hangs. So again, very simple. It is again, for this particular hardware, we're working on options to bring the cost down, but hook and saddle clips for below grid applications is the most expensive hardware that we have.
So
So
what's the benefit of hook and saddle?
the benefit of the hook and saddle is you have plenum access, but you can eliminate the visual of the grid. You will no longer see the grid because it sits below and it covers up that grid. There is a reveal, but it doesn't align with your grid marks. And it's like 3 inches below the grid. So even if there is, you don't see it up in there.
So instead of an inch reveal of the grid, you could get much closer and hide the grid
Yes.
above it.
The reveal between all of these is a 1/4 inch. That is non-negotiable. There needs to be a 1/4 inch reveal between this.
But for the tegular, it wouldn't be a 1/4 inch. It would be the actual
It would be the 15th
grid
Yeah, yeah.
itself.
I'm talking about the hook and saddle.
Yes.
We cannot do these so they're seamless and there's no reveal. It won't work out as much as we try, much as they want it to. Your seams will start to not align and it'll start to stand out and you'll have issues. So 1/4 inch reveal on the hook and saddle, that is standard and it can't be customized.
And T-grid to the naked eye looks very true and square. It's not. You know, when
Right.
you put it up there, it definitely skews in different directions, especially for larger, floor plans, ceiling plans, things like that too. So
Yeah.
that's why we have to have that tolerance in there.
The hook and saddle. So sorry, just saw that one there. It screws right into the back of the panel like this. And then what I was holding here is just a section of T-grid, right? And so you'll raise it up, hook it on there, and there will be 2, right? Because we'll get into this in a second, but then it just sits and holds and hangs just like this, right? So that's what it's attached to, the panel and then the grid itself. I mentioned this, it is important. They have to set their mains on 2-foot centers. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is when you look at a grid, it's hard to tell which is which, right? But there's mains and what they call crossbars. And the crossbars sit in between the mains and kind of give it that structure of the sizing and all of that. But when you have a cross member, the back of the grid, this portion here, does not sit at the same height as your main. And so I don't have another piece. I wish I did. So what you would have is your one that's coming in this direction sits just a little bit lower, just a little bit higher, depending on which grid you use. And it is crazy. There's 3 main grid manufacturers, and none of them are consistent. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. But if you have these clips on a main and a cross member, it's not going to sit flat because the back of those are not the same height. And so you come with this, you get this issue where it doesn't now sit flat. Each one's just a little bit plain. So they have to do their mains on 2-foot centers. Whenever we do shop drawings for this, we always include a overlay of the grid and say, this is how you have to lay your grid. And if you don't lay your grid this way, you're going to run into issues. So it's all part of the shop drawing process. Panel sizes on these are limited to 2x4, and that is it. No variation on the panel sizes.
Quick question about Tegular, I believe, from Amy. Are there options, reveal options for the color or facing material on the clip itself?
No, not the clip. It's gonna be this just aluminum thing. You won't see this because the clip is hidden. It's flush against the panel, and there's very minute. So in theory, you have exactly 23 and 3/4, or sorry, 23 and a 6, what is it? 23 and 3/16, I think, on a 2x2, right? Of space. And we make these a 16th under is all. And so you have a 32nd on each side, right? So there's gives you a little bit of play. So if there's some mistakes in the grid a little bit, you have a little bit of play, but there's no reveal there. So the clip is not going to be seen. Okay. Another option for panels with ceilings, okay, is the ceiling Z-clips. Z-clips, as you can see right there, they're very similar to the Z-clip. They just have these little hooks, so they can't slide, right? But because it has that hook, they're a little bit looser than what you get with normal Z-clips, and so the contractors are really good about this. They do know they've got to find ways to make sure it doesn't slide. But that's a way to be able to remove panels on the ceiling and still have a ceiling application. The other thing you're seeing there is Rotofast. And again, this is very specific to panels that are going to a hard deck. But we can use Rotofast similar to how you use them on a wall for fabric wrap panels. I have the wrong one. I have the one that has the lollipop in it. So this portion here gets hidden into the panel. That's what gets screwed in. So all you're going to see is this flat piece. And this one is for a cloud. So it has what we call a lollipop. So you have basically an eye hook that you can hang from. But you're going to have this thing here. Hold on, I'm gonna grab this because I think it's valuable. So this is a screw with a little plunger. And that's what gets screwed into the either the wall or the ceiling. And that snaps in where the lollipop would go. This is a very permanent solution. So if they need the panels to be removed, this is not removable. This is not the solution for you. You will destroy either the panel or the wall trying to remove this hardware. And then clouds. They all have some variation of an eye hook, whether it's a Rotofast like I just showed you, like this, or it's like a literal eye hook. That goes in, that gets screwed into the back of the wood panel. They're all gonna have something like that. And then the two ways you can do it is they can just use aircraft cable in a loop with a ferrule, or they can use a grip locker that has a hook on it, right? And it has the same thing, same little plunger, all the great things about our grip lockers that we have. It just has now this locking hook that snaps in, gives you easy adjustability. If you have to remove them for some reason, super easy this way. Okay. That's the hardware that I felt was most of our basic kind of standard hardware that I kind of wanted to go through, but I want to open it up to questions. First question is I'm going to try to address Amy's question about panel wall. At the moment, Amy, I do not have a great solution as an alternative to panel wall.
Panel wall?
Panel wall.
Panel wall.
Sorry, panel wall.
Name brand version of, so to describe it for everybody, it's a aluminum framing system for panels that is a little bit modular and allows you to keep things nice, straight, and even, and can typically be easier for the contractor to install panels into because it's all gridded out for them.
Yeah.
That's just a name brand version of an aluminum reveal system.
We are working on this. We don't have an ETA for a good to say what we have as a good solution. There are ways that we can help work with some of the reveal systems out there. But I will say at the moment, anything that we do that has Fry-Reglet or Eagle aluminum, or what's the other one that's big out there? I can't remember. Any of those reveal systems that are on the market, they're all designed for MDF panels, and our acoustic panels all are a little bit thicker than that. And so we can help with that. None of them are going to be as simple as the panel wall with, as an application. So we're working on that. We can help. We can discuss it. But a true direct, hey, is simple and easy. You just throw this up like the panel wall does. We don't have that solution at the moment. So sorry, Amy, but we are working on it. We'll make sure that you're the first to know.
Talking about spear clips, they can be placed for wall and ceiling applications.
Yes.
With
So,
ends?
so for the spear clips, as well as the construction adhesive and pin nails, both of those are wall or ceiling applications.
What's the difference between peel and stick and construction adhesive?
Okay. Peel and stick. We're gonna stop presenting for a second. Peel and stick, the problem that you have with that is you truly need a clean and fresh surface. And when you tell people that you need to have, it needs to be a level 4 or 5 finish drywall or high grade plywood that is face down, they hear level 4 or 5 finish or plywood. That's all they hear. And they don't go buy the high grade because that's expensive. They don't do a level 4 or 5 finish because that's expensive. And so what you get with that is, and they don't always make sure that the plywood's face down. Something that I think a lot of people out there don't know, plywood actually has a face and a back. And the face is much sturdier than the back is. And so we've done this. This has happened in a project that we did. They went and they used a low grade plywood. They hung up all the plywood. Half the sheets were upside down. And when you put this peel and stick on there, it stuck to that first layer of that backing. But the weight didn't like that. And it pulled the plywood apart because it was low grade and you were on the back, right? And so to eliminate that kind of confusion, we don't really like to use the peel and stick. The other thing that peel and stick doesn't give you is any flexibility. Once it's stuck, right? And so if you stick it in the wrong place, you've got to pry it off.
The peel and stick will tear away the material that it's being adhered to quicker than it will to the acoustics themselves. So they will actually potentially destroy their walls or ceiling if they need to move them. It is a one and done situation.
Yeah, as where with construction adhesive, you can put it in, set it, you can make your adjustments. If you need a reveal, you have your reveal cards in there holding it where it needs to be. Throw your pin nails in, it holds in place. You have that flexibility in play. But with the peel and stick, you get it out there, oh, wait, that one's wrong. You can't even slightly adjust that, right? So that's one of the things that we really recommend. You know, peel and stick is an option, but it's not the best option, right? So,
So if you have any more questions, throw it in the chat or unmute. It looks like we've gotten through all the questions that were in chat.
I have a question. I don't know if when I put it in, I lost power and it came back, but I was asking if when you were talking about the planks,
yep.
those are for walls and ceiling, that hardware.
Yes.
Okay. And that only pertains to true wood planks.
Correct.
Okay.
Those are our wood acoustic planks. What I showed you there, they're for wall or ceiling, both types of hardware, the spear clips and the construction adhesive for wall or ceiling. If they need plenum access, at that point, we're moving them to the linear plank system, which is the unit with 3 planks on it that you attach with screws.
Is that the same kind of system if you were like your favorite hexagon pattern where they put units together? Would that be the same kind of hardware?
No, with hexagons, you're probably not talking about wood panels, probably talking about fabric or vinyl.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
at that, you're going to use impaling clips and fabric. I didn't show that. I apologize. This is an impaling clip. They're just spiky little guys here, right?
Mhm.
They just get screwed onto the wall and the back of the panel slides right on. Super simple, super easy. They don't need to be exactly placed here. You can just throw them up, pop them on, right?
The difficult thing with those is aligning panels though that are close together.
No reveals.
You know, when you take that panel and you stick it on the wall, you kind of go, you know, forward and down to get it on that spike. And so once it's on the wall, it's very hard to put a bunch of weight on or lift it up and get it perfectly level.
I wouldn't say very hard. You just have to be paying attention. It's more difficult than if you use like a roto because you snap it on, it's in place, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like hexagons, things like that, we're going to use the spear clips, or we're going to use roto fast anchors, something along those lines. It is easiest for that kind of stuff. The spear clips are specifically for wood planks and wood planks only. They don't work with fabric. They don't work with vinyl. They don't work with felt. So they are specifically for wood acoustic planks. What other questions? I know that lots of people want to talk about hardware.
You
So
said
far,
the
only 2
impaling.
people are asking questions.
Sorry, you said the impaling clips are for the hexagons. What's it? Is
Yeah.
the impaling clip? What is that the same as what
So-
a spear clip is?
Yes.
Well,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
oh,
No, it's different. She
Spear
said
clip.
different. She said different.
spear clip and it, yeah.
This is an impaling clip. These things here. The back of the panel gets onto these spikes.
Okay.
The spear clip
Have the runway. And
have the runway. This is the spear clip for wood planks. So they're completely different applications.
Okay.
Okay. All of your fabric and vinyl panels, it's pretty much this or roto for almost everything that we do. Occasionally we'll do Z clips. This and rotos are the very easiest for anything that's fabric or vinyl. Impaling and rotos.
Hey, I'm sorry. Can you just say that one more time? Impaling and rotos are the easiest.
For
To work
fabric
with.
and vinyl panels.
Okay.
That 90% of our fabric or vinyl panel, acoustic panels that go out have impaling clips or rotofast anchors. Those are the two hardwares that we use for 90% of them.
The spikies.
Yeah.
In the
Okay.
previous, 4 or 5 slides, that was relatively almost all related to wood.
Yes.
So just to let it kind of everyone know, circle back a little
Oh,
bit. So the 5 slides that Daniel showed,
Yeah.
or however many, were wood focused. We just did 30 seconds on the fabric and not a ton on felt, which is kind of why I brought up to get us started, the conversation of peel and stick versus construction adhesive, because that's a big debate with felt products on flat surfaces.
Yeah. So with our felt, majority of the wall panels and things that go on the wall is just construction adhesive, right? There's not a lot of hardware. Our hardware comes into play when it's ceiling applications, right? And it's our baffles. We went over that. That's wood and felt baffles. That was the first thing that I did. There are some things that we use where we use feltware. That's very specific stuff that we've designed to integrate into the products that we've built. But that's again relatively easy, and you don't need a whole lot to go with it. So I didn't want to go spend a whole lot of time on the felt. I apologize. I should have had a slide about fabric. But fabric again is very easy because it's basically one of two things. It's the impaling clips or it's the rotofast anchors, right? And then we usually have the least amount of questions when it comes to fabric and vinyl hardware.
Yeah, those impaler clips have been that way for 30 years now. So, most architects are very familiar with how to suspend fabric wrapped panels or place them on the wall. What I'm saying, even if it's a hook or a lollipop or they've been around so long that people are very familiar with fabric wrapped hardware.
Other questions?
I got another one, guys.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we'll see where they want a wood-faced acoustic cloud. They want that in a kind of like a drop ceiling, I guess, enclosed with the same wood, structure, say rectangular, and then the clouds are set in it. Something like that visually.
Mhm.
Is that, is that something, how do you all advise handling that and that enclosing structure? Is that something we provide as well, or is that a mill worker to do?
It really depends on what it is they're looking for. If it's just a coffered ceiling, one coffered ceiling, and it's going to be inset and they want wood on the sides, right? We can supply the wood that gets screwed into there. We've done that on a couple projects. But if they want individual coffers where there's beams running through there, well, what size beams do they want? We can kind of help and work through all of that. We can build out coffer systems integrated with wood acoustic baffles or even felt acoustic baffles. Like, we can help do that kind of stuff, but there's not and that's one of the things about, hey, this is what I want to do. What hardware do I use? Well, it's not just about the hardware. It's about what look you're going for, and that application is so important. And so a lot of these questions, when it comes to hardware, what hardware do I use to get this look? Well, it's not just the hardware. We got to determine what products you want to use and what you're comfortable with, what your budget is, all those types of things to figure out how to give them the look that they're going for. And so that's when I say the application is the most important thing. Ask them about the application. When they say what they're going to do and what they want, hey, you know what? I think it'd be best to get the manufacturer on the call. We can it's really easy. They'll go through, ask all the questions they need, make sure that you have everything you need to specify this, and answer all your questions so you're comfortable that the end result is going to be what you want, right? So to answer the question, Amy, yeah, there's ways we can do that, but there's so much that I would have to ask to understand what they want to determine how we would do that and what hardware we'd use.
And, alternatively, there are coffers and there are also wood kind of grid systems. So you can actually make a T-grid system like we have above us and have wood print on it. So to Daniel's point, there are options on how we can try to solve for those things.
Gotcha. Thank you. And thank you for covering hardware. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This has been awesome.
That was Dan's #1 request when he was in San Diego. So we thought we would
Mhm.
sneak it into this session and then kind of kick all the other sessions back. So
So Whitney asked about the hardware that's used in here. These panels to my side over here, those are construction adhesive. Okay. The baffles that are being suspended, there is a twist clip with a female grip locker and then a grip locker on the baffle side as well. So that's what the baffles are. And all of the panels right here, all those panels are hung on Z-clips.
What panels?
The wood panels right here.
Oh, the wood. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, other questions? I'm trying to prep you guys for the next slide I have because we got to have some interaction or we're not going anywhere.
I'm sorry, I had another one in the chat, but who is best to install this? And is the GC, like, do they know typically what sub to?
Yeah. So really the subs are going to look through the plans and know what they want to bid on. Drywall companies sometimes will install it. Almost every major city has specific acoustic installation teams, and all they do is buy and install acoustics. Every major city is going to have those. When you don't have, it's maybe a smaller city, outskirts, things like that, your drywall contractors are usually the ones that pick this kind of stuff up. But to be honest with you, it doesn't necessarily matter who's installing this, because we can do those pre-installation calls and we will walk them through every little bit of it, of the hardware that's specific to this project.
So, sorry, I have another question. If we're using dual products, like if it's a 2-story stairwell, let's say, and it's sandfoot sheets below on the drywall, we recommend a wall covering sub to install that. But if it's going to be acoustical wood above it, is it 2 people working on the same wall?
Your wall covers typically aren't going to be doing panel installations. That's not their skill and their trade. There might be companies that have wall covers and kind of panel installers, but the same person typically is not going to be doing both of those. Same company might, but again, with the sandfoot, you guys recommend that because it has to be done by a wall cover, because if it's not, it's going to be wrong, right? Typically, any general or most of your subs are going to be able to use the hardware that we give them, especially with one phone call from us. It's very simple. So a lot of different types of contractors can install this stuff, as where with your wall covering, a guy that paints may not be able to do that. A guy that installs panels on a wall probably isn't going to know how to do that, right? A guy that does drywall and just muds, he might not even know how to do that. And so because it's such a specific skill that is needed for that, what we really need is someone who has general carpentry and construction knowledge, right? We can help them through any questions that they have. Our hardware for installers, just so you know, is very intuitive. Nothing is really crazy or complicated. Once they might have questions because they've never seen it before, but almost always, once they get it in their hands, it makes perfect sense to them. So we don't have a very specific, it has to be a wall cover, it has to be a drywall company, because so many different types of people can do it.
I feel like we might need, like, Randy's on here, I think. I feel like we might need a little pause on quotes or something if we're working in a space that has multiple materials and surfaces, just so that sequenced and the grain runs continuous and so there's no issues.
Yeah,
maybe
so-
I'm
so that
overthinking
sort
it.
of thing. Yeah, there's very few projects where you're gonna have direct to drywall and acoustic or even hardwood panels that need to be sequenced together. Usually it's you sequence one and you sequence the other. But if we ever get to a situation like that, it will always be discussed internally while we're building quotes and talking about it. A project like that should never happen without a consultation. So all of that stuff can be
Right.
talked about then. It doesn't necessarily need to be really defined in quotes and things like that. So. Other hardware questions before I bring up my next slide, next and final. You guys asked for this.
The number one
Ask was hardware.
the number one mistake that people make when talking about hardware with architects. Is there anything that kind of pops up repeatedly once a year or something like that that is a challenge?
There's not like one specific thing. It's one class of things, I guess, because it happens a lot. What happens is, an architect or designer will say, "Hey, I want to attach this to X, Y, or Z." Not a typical, like a wall panel that isn't chipboard, drywall, chipboard, plywood, or CMU block. Anything else that is other than that, that's a wall panel, gonna have to have a conversation. They're like, I want to attach this. I got hat channel. I want to make sure it attaches to hat channel. Or, the wall that we have there is this floating beams that we've got, like different things like that. Like when it's not a typical thing, like, yes, our hardware is gonna be fine for that. They just assume, like, yes, we can solve for it, but because the conversation never gets had, a lot of times what ends up happening is we use our standard hardware and it doesn't work for that application, right? Like RotoFast anchors are not gonna work on CMU block. You can make it work, but it's triple the work. Because CMU block with an impaling clip, you can use basically a hammer drill or hammer nail gun and nail these to the CMU block and they're gonna stay in place. With a RotoFast anchor, because you've got a screw, you now have to drill out a hole, put in your anchor, and then screw this in. So it's so much more work to do RotoFast anchors onto a CMU block. And so that's almost never the application that we want to use for CMU block, right? And so just say, yeah, our standard hardware is fine, or assuming that the hardware is going to be solved when it's not a typical installation, right? That's the number one mistake. Because then you end up with someone gets a hardware on site that isn't going to work for their application. We have, when it comes to just using our product as is with special applications, we've yet to be stumped. We find a way to make that work. There are times where we have to modify our product and things like that we can't quite get to where we need to be. But when it's just, hey, your standard product, but we have a special application, we find the hardware, we find the ways to work it. We can always make that work. We just need to have the conversation and be aware on the front end. Okay. No more questions?
I have a quick question. This is Heather.
Yeah.
Are we standardizing pre-installation meetings with the installers? I think that we have maybe done it on a few projects, but not every project. And I think it could be something super beneficial. I mean, most of the time, hopefully it'll be super easy, but I think just making sure, for instance, people who have baffles, they don't show up to site without the cable and things like that.
Yeah. So we don't require them. And it's going to be hard to require them. But every single contractor is sent the link and encouraged to schedule a pre-install meeting. There are times where we will, and there's certain projects that we will require it, but generally those are so complicated that they're happy to do it. And their phone calls that are had between the rep, the project coordinator team, us saying, hey, we got to do this. We've got to have a pre-installation meeting. We're going to do this. Like, we'll push them to set it up. But every single contractor is given the link to schedule those pre-installation meetings and encouraged to. So, any other questions? We're almost done here. So, now back our activate, we're going to call it interactivate. So we would like to know who out there has completed any of these little challenges that we give at the end of each session. So with hardware, there's not a really great like call to action that I can give you, right? Other than ask about the application and set up consults so that we can talk about it, right? So I want to, we're on the second half of all of our meetings now, and we've given you kind of 6 different, hey, here's what we're going to challenge you guys with. So I want to know if any of you have actually taken any of those challenges and done them. And I want to know who wants to share, and I'm not going to end the call until someone shares.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like, show the product, ask for the consultation and schedule it and do it. I did that, right?
Okay, you schedule the consultation.
Nice.
I want a story though. I want a story where someone used something they learned here, used it and got a great outcome. I know someone's done it.
Randy, do you have a story to share?
Randy's the project coordinator.
Well, I've got some success stories, but I think that they haven't sold yet, so maybe we should defer that to the sales team.
Yeah, this is more for the sales guys, sales folks out there. Nothing? Are we gonna sit here in silence?
I mean, there's been like a heat wave across this country. Like, do you want to give us a refresh and then maybe we'll call it out?
So, basically we want you to take what you learned here, and every different session has had some sort of call to action where we've asked you to use a certain question or talk about what we've talked about in a call. And that's what I'm curious about. It doesn't have to be exactly something that we talked about or asked you guys to do, but has anybody taken any information that they've learned in these calls and in a call that they've done with a customer said, hey, I remember this from the call and I used it and it helped you out? And maybe that hasn't happened. I understand. But I feel like it's got to happen. At least one person out there has learned something here. They've used it in a call to a customer and it's worked for them.
Well, I mean, your time, like your steps, like the process, like you had those 4 squares,
Yeah.
different color squares, and that like activated from this call to presentation, talking to clients, and then getting them on, asking all the questions to try to get information so that we can get on the consultation and then get quoted. And now it's just like, okay, come in.
Perfect.
Is that what you
Something that we've discussed and got a consultation call out. I love it. I do appreciate it. I know that there's more stories than just that one. I'm not going to sit here and make everybody until someone else tells another story. But one of the reasons I wanted to share is a lot of times we can tell you guys all of these things, but it might not be as impactful. But if someone on your team has a story of like, hey, I did this and it helped, like that's impactful. You can see it working in the field, right? And we appreciate everything that you guys do. Without any of you, like like, we're not gonna sell anything, and we know that. And so these sessions are designed to help you guys with the tools and resources that you need. And so it's really important to us that we know we're giving you guys information that's useful, right? And so that's the big reason of my why behind this particular slide. So again, please know we appreciate each and every one of you. We are thankful for all that you guys do. I know this one was a little bit different, a little bit more chaotic as far as what, the structure of the call, but hardware is a difficult thing. And I could spend 4 hours talking about all the different types of hardware. So I just wanted to make sure that what you guys got out of this is that every application is going to require a different hardware, and understanding that application and getting a consultation call for anything that isn't standard is how we're going to win those jobs and how we're going to make sure that the customer is going to be happy at the end of the day. So I'll leave you with that. If anybody wants to chime in, lovely. If not, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a wonderful holiday weekend, and everybody show up on Monday with all of their fingers and toes.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dan.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks, guys.